There was a point in time where Demigryph Knights were considered the cream of the Empire's crop. These days, you don't see them nearly as much, but I do like the pick in this matchup. Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today we return to Phoenix King versus Halberds. Phoenix King coming in hot with Kislev versus Halberds Empire, human versus human. I knew I had to cast this one, and I love the builds on both sides already, elements of it at least. Marcus Wolfhart leading the way for the Empire. We've got Hellblaster Volleygun. Another great style pick, even if the substance isn't necessarily always worth the squeeze. Definitely can be. And we've got the Demigryph Knights, lots of Empire Knights here, 3, 4 of them. Yes, actually one's Reiksguard, okay. And some silver bullets along with the Sterling's Revenge, Swordsman. Just 5 Swordsmen as a nice staunch front line for Kislev here. Definitely some targets for the Demigryph Knights to go after in this matchup, which is why I like the pick. They're great against Kislev Cavalry. They will get out-traded straight up by the Bear Riders, but not really a lot you can do about that except support with missiles and such. The Heavy War Sleds will also be a decent target if the Demigryph Knights can catch them. Got lots of cost-fight dervishes. Try and cut through along with Winged Lancers, so plenty of cavalry for them to fight. Backed up by a horde of Kossars. We've got regular Kossars and Kossar Spears. Not really any armor, just all bows all across the board. So let's get things started here. Of course, this series is even 1-to-1 on the BBB tournament. Land Battle Swiss-style tournament. If I can remember, I'll leave a link down in the description below to the bracket so you guys can check on the scores for those of you interested. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with the Swiss format, everyone plays in every round, and then the person with the highest score at the end wins, right? So, like, and the more you go undefeated, the more wins you get. You will successively, face tougher opponents who also have a lot of wins, whereas people who get less wins, let's say, politely, end up also fighting people who have less wins. So you kind of get a nice sort of, at least by the later rounds, hopefully a little bit more of even skilled matchups, but so far, both players just kind of skirmishing a little bit, but we're going to get a nice engagement, early charge from these Empire Cavalry, seizing the initiative, getting into those cost-fight dervishes, absolutely wrecking them in melee, but a nice flank attack here from these Winged Lancers, going to sweep up and around while the front lines just shoot it out. Empire Swordsmen are going to counter-collapse here, and this is one reason why you see war wagons and why they're so much better. I mean, the DPS is arguably not quite as good as these infantry skirmish units, but the counterfire, they're just so much tankier against the counterfire from these Kossars. You can see that the silver bullets have had to pull back there, which is definitely a wise move, but Demigryph Knights in reserve right now, not in the right position to prevent a unit of swordsmen from getting absolutely run over by these war sleds. One of the scariest units. Chariots in the game, certainly I would say slightly below maybe the Scourge Runner chariot in sort of best chariots overall, but a nice net from Marcus there stops their advance, and the Demigryph Knights are going to deploy in a counter formation here, and Heavy War Sleds obviously just going to pull back, screen through those Kossar Spears, so some really nice plays on both sides. We get these Pistoliers. I didn't even notice. Favorite unit on the field here is actually running in and out, doing some nice skirmishing with their pistols, hopefully getting some nice damage up close. These Empire Knights on the far side get caught out. Looks like they were winning slightly on that engagement, but now getting outnumbered. So far, pretty even trades. This Ice Witch has just been running around here trying to avoid the shots of Marcus. I don't think he's trying to shoot her anyway. I think he's probably shooting the War Sleds, which is certainly the right call. Demigryph Knights do manage to somewhat get through the screen, but Demigryph Knights' mass is honestly not spectacular. It's probably one thing that they could buff about them. I mean, 1400 is okay, but it's, kind of on par with other heavy cavalry. I think Bretonnian cavalry in Lance formation has significantly more mass, so they do get screened by Kossars, which certainly they're not going to be able to get through. War Sleds are able to get away, but yes, Kossars will certainly be sacrificed in this process. No more Buyer Blood proc for them, as it's already been used. We see in the back line some Kossars also snuck through, cleaned up the silver bullets, and despite these spears here, they're likely going to be able to clean up the Hellblaster Volleygun as well. Looks like they already knocked it off. And, yeah, all the artillery pieces are still intact, so if the crew can get back over there, a little bit of earth blood on the crew there to heal them back up. Very interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I don't know how worth it that's going to be. Probably should save that healing for the Demigryph Knights, but they're going to be used in a way that really the Halberd ones, I mean, it's not that they shouldn't be used like this at all. It's definitely going to help decisively defeat this Kossar here, and since they're the best targets within range, you might as well spend time, you know, actively doing something rather than not contributing to the battle, right? But certainly the Lance Demigryph Knights are better in a situation like this, and one reason why Demigryph Knights in the first place are rare, but the Lances are generally slightly more common because of that extra missile block chance, and they're just better against infantry. With the meta how it is in Warhammer 3 right now, you generally see more infantry. But again, specifically as a counter-cavalry option, I do like the Halberds as a pick in this matchup. The Winged Lancers are very bravely going to charge directly into hot gates here. And the Demigryph Knights, their beautiful crimson armor, are going to respond in kind. Absolutely devastating. Even that Frost Blades there, something? Frost Blades on... yeah, I don't know, actually. Not familiar enough with the Kislev spells. Flesh to Stone. Okay, interesting. Heavy physical resistance on these Demigryph Knights just to prevent them from taking damage in the first place. Really like that use as they're getting shot by missiles here. They're having to fight in melee. But the Demigryph Knights are definitely going to be very key. They need to stay alive in order to take out those heavy war sleds in the late game. But they definitely have a lot of work to do. Besides that, these Kossar... Ossify dervishes have been running around making big problems, and pistoliers, I mean, fighting them in melee is definitely very bold. I guess they have the Jade Wizard there to support, do a couple splash attacks, but just tough for the Empire to defend their backline. The Empire Knights did a nice job trading, but like this one that got caught up over here for a long time, wasn't able to defend the backline of the Empire, and as a result, Phoenix King is able to come in and effectively clean up pretty much all the Empire's range units. Again, kind of goes back to War Wagons. Because of their tankiness, they're just so much harder to effectively shut down, and they would have been able to at least hold out against the Kossars a little bit better, maneuver around, maybe screen through some of their own units. But we'll talk about build composition at the end of the game. Here we see, again, with the Demigryph Knights out of position, the Empire infantry is left open and vulnerable to just getting absolutely hammered, blasted, and slapped by a bear all at the same time. Run over by frozen icicles, which I can't imagine would be very comfortable at all. Marcus is doing his best to fight back, but he can only do so much. A lot of his shots have also been missing, too. I mean, he's got some decent gold value back, but not maybe what you would want to see. I mean, these sleds are relatively expensive, but they're not that expensive at the end of the day. Let's see, the Demigryph Knights here taking volleys from multiple directions. Will they choose to just charge in? It looks like they are. The heavy sleds, though, of course, deal armor-piercing damage with their shooting. And Demigryph Knights, at least they do get the net here, which will prevent the sleds from getting away, and they are going to get into contact with the sleds at the very least. Keep in mind, though, Demigryph Knights' defense is fairly low, only 33. 38 attack on the heavy war sleds means that in a sustained melee combat, even though the Demigryph Knights would be doing heavy damage, they're still going to actually take damage back from the sleds, both in melee and with the ranged attack at the same time, which is just horrendous. You know, it's just awful, to be honest. So they get routed off, and as a result, it's looking pretty grim for the Empire. Marcus Wolfhart, still very healthy, obviously. Kislev hasn't tried to snipe him at all, and it is a very close battle at the end of the day. I think just some minor tweaks in composition, and this Empire build would have some scary teeth. I mean, not that these Regiment of Renown missile units are bad. Certainly, I think the Stirlund's Revenge, you're going to take a missile infantry here. It makes sense due to their decent melee stats. They can hold out a little bit better against the Kossars and, you know, light cavalry threats from Kislev. But even still, the Blaster is a fun idea. It's definitely a great style pick, mad respect to that, but definitely would have been better served to just have a wagon in this place, use the leftover funds to upgrade the Silver Bullets to a wagon, possibly the Stirlund's Revenge as well if you just want to go all wagon missile line, and then you can operate them kind of in tandem with the cavalry a little bit more, utilize that mobility, try and avoid and make sure you're continuing to sustain damage on the important targets. Like these war sleds, anytime they come in to shoot or charge your infantry, they're getting countershot, right, by the war wagon. Certainly easier for me to just say that than it is to pull it off in battle, but I have to say I'm very happy with the performance of the Demigryph Knights in this specific matchup. Even though the Empire ended up losing, it wasn't because of these Demigryph Knights, certainly. And I don't know, I really like this Demis plus, you know, some other supporting heavy cavalry. Again, the Reichsguard, I like the pick to an extent, but I think efficiency-wise, just for Empire Knights, and then use the leftover funds to maybe grab an extra spear, because one spear and an Empire Knight is probably better than a Reichsguard in almost every situation, unfortunately for the Reichsguard. Yeah, on Kislev's side, the actual victors here, just nice value spread across a lot of these Kossars. They're really showing their hybrid status well. Winged Lancers also managed to get some pretty good engagements, while the Kossars kind of got eaten on the chin, except for the one who went all secret agent in the back line and got lots of missile units cleaned up. And then the sleds, of course, just the presence is enough to weigh heavily on the battle, even though they don't both necessarily pay for themselves. It's still tactically very useful to have. So that puts Phoenix King up 2-1 on the series. Come back tomorrow to find out if he can finish it off in Game 4 or if Kal Harman can force it to a Game 5. That's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. Thanks again. See you next time.